Thank you. Ray, over to you.
Right. Thank you very much. Okay, members, we move forward. Are there any apologies, Andy?
We have apologies from Rachel Smith.
Rachel, right. Declarations of interest, any matters on the agenda?
Nobody has registered any with me?
No public questions?
None received.
Members' questions?
None received.
Minutes of the previous meeting on the 4th of December. Have you all had the opportunity of reading those minutes? Are there any questions on the minutes, complaints, grammatical errors, etc.? If not, may I sign them on your behalf as being a true and fair record of the events that took place? Yes?
Noted. Thank you.
Okay. No, if you don't shout that you've got an objection, I assume everybody agrees. So that's that. So now we have new review of our objectives of the independent advisor, pages 9 to 12 on your agenda, to approve the revised strategic objectives for the independent advisor. Matthew, this is down to you here. Is that right?
Yes, Ray. Yes, Chair. Absolutely. Do you want me to just briefly take committee through?
Yes, please do.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so apologies. Obviously, as we know, this is a slightly off-cycle meeting for Pensions Committee, so not the usual agenda items in terms of investment performance. That will come through to the March meeting. We took the opportunity to add this agenda item in, which is on pages 9 to 11 of your packs there, with a recommendation with regard to reviewing and revising the strategic objectives for the independent advisor. Just very briefly, this was born out of an order which came out of the Competition and Markets Authority in relation to pension scheme trustees, and LGPS Pensions Committee were classified as pension scheme trustees in state of the order, to enable pension fund trustees to set objectives for their independent advisors or consultants. That order did actually apply and cover the agreement and the contract that the committee had with MJ Hudson, and specifically with John, in terms of the services that John supplies. The original objectives were due to be set and were set in December 2019. And as part of the order, every 12 months, so every 12-month period, a compliance statement and certification then needs to be supplied back to the Competition and Markets Authority. Your chair, Ray, and myself as head of pensions did that compliance and certification based upon the objectives that were put in place in December 19. Now, at that point of review, the objectives were based upon the actual services agreement that was agreed with MJ Hudson in April 2019. So they were very operational in their nature, rather than strategic on that side. So it was felt that as part of that process, what we would do is take this opportunity now to revise those objectives moving forward, to have a small number of strategic objectives for the independent advisor, which work alongside the aims and objectives of the pension fund and the overall committee on that side. So on page 11 are the 3 strategic objectives that we are seeking approval to be set for John. That will then be brought and added to the services agreement that we have. It will then also form the review and the compliance and certification for this year, 2021, that we will have to do towards the end of this year to meet the CMA's, the Competition and Markets Authority's objectives. Now, we have reviewed these objectives with John. He is agreeable to them from that side. So I will kind of pass back to Ray and as chair now to obviously answer any questions with regard to those and the 3 objectives that are on page 11 and the recommendation to agree those revised strategic objectives for John moving forward. Thank you, Ray.
Right, thank you. Well, before I do anything, John, these are for you. You were nodding wisely just now. Are you content with all this? Is there any comments you want to make about them?
Thank you, Ray, and good morning. No, I am perfectly happy with them. I think having a a sort of headline 3 objectives is a good idea with the detail behind it. The one thing I would say, of course, is similar to Brunel, I am unable to guarantee that you will reach your financial targets in the future, but I'm happy to be measured on whether I add value and increase the probability of you achieving them over the long term. And I think it's that long-term nature that's the issue for me. I can't tell you what markets will do tomorrow, but I hope I can help you structure the fund in a way that it's got a better probability of achieving its aims in the long term. And I think that's reflected in the 3 headline criteria that Matthew has set forward. So I'm very happy.
Yes, the words long term give me pain, I'm afraid, because you know, things start going badly, long term ends, doesn't it? I mean, you know, it's anyway. Thank you, John. So I'm glad that you're happy with that. Ensuring that we've got liquid resources available to meet the funds. I don't know quite sure how you're supposed to get that assurance on that, but it seems to have slipped in. It seems to be rather a curved ball, that one.
No, I'm happy with that because really what that refers to is every 3 years there's an actuarial review that shows the cash flows. So it's a matter of structuring the fund such that those cash flows can be met if necessary by income. You're not at that position at the moment, but if it was, then we begin to look to more income producing assets. So again, I'm afraid it's that long-term word. I don't know the day-to-day operational and I'm not involved in that, but structuring the portfolio to match the long-term cash requirements, I think is important and a valid objective.
Well, right. Thank you, John. Now, members, have you got any questions, comments, disagreements? David, good morning, David. Nice to see you again.
Good morning, Ray. Good to see you. I only got in just before you, so
Oh.
I'm charging my iPad. Yeah, my question may or comment may sound a little bit pedantic, but the first objective there, I'm just thinking back over the last 6 months. I'm sure there've been times when our funding level has been over 100%. I mean, I know it's not something we track every day by any means, but if our funding level does go above the 100%, are we saying to John, well, it's too much, because the target there is maintaining 100% funding level? So yeah, that's my comment and regarding funding level.
Any comments on that? John?
I'm happy to say a word, but I'm sure Matthew might want to add to it. I think a couple of things. One is, remember your 100% funding level is as an open scheme. If the scheme was to close to new members, the maturity of the scheme would come rapidly towards you and you would need to and be able to take less investment risk. So if this scheme was closed, it's probably somewhere around 70–75% funded at the current time under an actuarial revaluation. So I know the scheme isn't expected to close at any stage, but you're 100% funded on an open basis on assumption that current employees and any future employees will pay into the scheme. So I wouldn't regard 100% as a limit. And I think as we see interest rates fall, then your actuary would probably lower the discount rate, which reduces the funding level. But at the current time, you are almost certainly still around about 100% funded. So again, I think it's important as a target. The better funded you are alters your appetite for risk. And again, I think, you know, if you're too overfunded, then you don't need to take the risk. If you're too underfunded, you may not be able to take the risk. So it's important to have that there as a criteria because it does help set the strategy that is partly dependent on your funding level.
Matthew, did you?
I concur with John. That's fine.
Right. Did I see you waving, Lyndon?
Yeah, I mean, just to pick up David's point and John's answer, then, but perhaps we should just insert at least 100%. I think that'll cover everything off, and it shows a bit of aspiration as well.
Under pressure, John.
I think I'd be comfortable with that, to add the words at least 100%.
That's fine.
The authorities won't worry about that then. Okay, anything else, Colin? Nothing? No? No. If there's no one else, we'll what do we have to do? Vote on this, do we? Andy?
I think there is a recommendation on page 11 that the committee are asked to agree the revised strategic objectives for the independent advisor set out in the report, noting that there is one amendment to the first recommendation, recommendation A, where it will read delivering the pension fund's target of achieving and maintaining at least 100% funding level, and the rest of that statement.
Then members, could we have a vote on that? Then those all in favour, please raise your hands.
Thank
Any
you.
against? Abstentions? Sean's disappeared. Where's Sean? Has he run off because he doesn't want to decide? Andy, are we quorate?
You are. So you have the majority anyway. So if you
Without Sean, I mean.
yes.
Okay, then we'll assume he's got off for some emergency, and we'll continue. Thank you very much, members.
Thank you.
Ah, Sean, you're back.
I had to go and shut the front door, in fact.
Yes, unfortunately, Sean, we voted while you were away. We didn't know quite why you'd gone.
I'm quite in favour of it, yes.
Right,
I agree.
so that's everybody in favour. Very good. Okay, thank you. The next item is the exclusion of the press and public. It is resolved that, now do we have to stop the feed here?
Sorry, Ray, if you could read agenda item 7, please. If you could read out the text, and then if we can pause there briefly whilst we end the feed, that would be appreciated.
Okay, in accordance with the section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 72, the public would be excluded from the meeting for the following agenda items, because it is likely that if members of the public were present, there would be disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3, part 1 of the Schedule 12A to the Act, and the public interest in withholding the information outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information to the public. All those in favour?
Thank you. Okay, if we can just pause there a moment, please.
Thank you.
Joe,
Thank you, Andy.
Joe, could you end the feed, please, and tell us when we're clear?